Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas Remarks with your host, Joe Staszak, co-host Steve Kallas. How you doing, Steven?
All good, Joe. Great to be with you as always.
You too. 7 weeks in the books. A couple teams had some buys sprinkled in here and there, but the Vikings seem like we just talked about them. They got beat by the Eagles in a perfect game by Jalen Hurts. They come back on a Thursday night on the road. Not an easy thing to do. They don't got to go all the way across the country, but from here, they do. If they were here, they were in LA last night, and again, one more game without JJ McCarthy. Not sure that would have made a difference because I think they made a colossal mistake in getting rid of either Sam Darnold or even Daniel Jones at the end of last year and
Who?
with the
Who?
rookie. But they go Carson Wentz one more time. Didn't have a great game, and not much he could. I mean, I could, if he pitched a perfect game, I'm not sure he could have beaten the Chargers with their. I'm concerned more if I was a Minnesota fan about their defense, giving up those bombs to last week to the Eagles and give us up 37 points. And the Chargers look, again, they've been up and down this year, but they look pretty good, pretty sound. They beat the Vikings 37-10 last night.
Yeah, Herbert's become a little bit more of a passer. Um, 18 for 25, 227 yards, three TDs, one pick. I mean, we know he can still get this. They also talked about how Harbaugh wants to run the ball, and they did run the ball. I mean, they did run the ball real well, and they had a rookie, Vidal, 23 carries, 117 yards, and a touchdown.
Come on, if I yeah.
But I don't know if it's a home and away thing for the Chargers because sometimes they're very, very good and sometimes they're not. But obviously, Carson Wentz, I think he played hurt, by the way, because J.J. McCarthy was the emergency backup, and
He
the
was
one
an
in
emergency.
between is a rookie who hasn't played. So I give him credit for, trying, but he threw for 144 yards, and that's just not going to get it in today's
The
NFL.
interception was bad too. It wasn't a
Right.
tip or wasn't a bot. It was
But I think you're right about the problem, the strength, because we don't know what J.J. McCarthy is, as you've said. He had the one quarter to win the game, and the other seven quarters haven't been very good. And Sam Darnold is playing out of his mind out in West Coast. So I think they made a mistake. And if their defense is starting to, I don't want to use crumble, but they're 3-4. If their defense is starting to go backwards a little, that's a big problem because that's their strength.
It's
And
always
they
been this one with Brian Flores and the way he mixes up coverages and mixes up blitz packages. And
Yeah, it didn't work last night, but they interviewed Jefferson, and you can see Jefferson's starting to get a little upset now. He doesn't really have a quarterback the quality of Sam Darnold to throw to him. That's the reality. Whatever J.J. McCarthy is, he's not going to be Sam Darnold.
no,
If you had any hopes that Wentz was going to revert to his one-time 13-game MVP thing, that's not going to happen. And they may not want to throw a rookie into the fire because it's 3-4. You got to win some games, or else you're just not going to make the playoffs.
maybe want to think about that before they did what they did. And I know you can look back and say that, it's 2020, but I think me and you both thought, you're going with a rookie. And he wasn't even the rookie of that draft class, if you remember. Look, he won a national championship, but didn't throw a pass against Penn State in the second half of his senior year of that game. It wasn't like they called on him to make NFL throws all the time.
It
He
should
had,
be a flag, no,
yeah,
Joe? That
the
should be
one,
some kind of flag.
yes, right?
Not that he's bad, don't get me wrong, and he was great for that one quarter, but he hasn't wasn't good the other seven.
I'm not
Give him
saying that
credit.
right.
It was
No,
the
he was
fourth,
terrible. I mean, it
it was
was
the
a tough
fourth
game.
quarter, give him credit, but
One quarter came back and won that game. Um, and he's a rookie, so we'll give him some time. But that was a tough pill. It's been a tough pill to swallow for Minnesota coming off the 14-win season.
I agree.
Excuse me. Some other interesting games. All right, we'll start with the Giants Eagles because the Giants aren't a team that I think anyone looks kind of past like they used to. I mean, they clobbered the Eagles. I mean, they clobbered them. Let's face it, a couple Thursdays ago. Probably should have fared better against Denver because they clobbered them for three quarters. They did beat the Chargers at home earlier this year, all with Jackson Dart. It was a good move, I think, replacing Russell Wilson. I like the pick. I think they took him 25th in the first round. I had liked him under Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. I didn't think he'd step in right away, and he makes some mistakes, but he's a rookie. But he's done a nice job. Maybe he even changed the culture there. and they're 7.5 point dog on the road. Not that that means anything, but for a straight up game, some people think the Eagles, well, they're just going to roll them because they got rolled last time. I don't think it's going to be an easy game.
Well, what about AJ Brown? Is he out or nobody knows yet?
He hasn't practiced in 2 days. I think he's going to play,
Okay.
from what I hear. But that is weird. I mean, he was fine on the last bomb on fourth down that he caught, and I don't know what happened from then to Wednesday, but he has the ham. I know he tweets out things, and that kind of gets under some people's skin. And I did hear a receiver on Get Up yesterday say, "This is my." He was I can't trying to get his name. He's like, when I played, my agent told me all the time, be the squeaky wheel, be the squeaky wheel. Otherwise, if you're not complaining, they don't know that you're not happy. However, you can do it in a way that you don't have to do it publicly and make it a thing.
Well, the wide receivers are always the divas.
But they're always the divas. They're always the craziest, and they're always the divas. They're always
And the higher up you go with a lesser quarterback, and Jefferson just wasn't happy. I don't know that he was complaining, but I saw him interviewed after the game. And, it doesn't really matter what Jefferson does if your defense is giving up 37, frankly. But at some point, these guys become, very unhappy. As for the Giants, I don't know what to say about the Giants. I mean, look, they're a much better team with a rookie quarterback and a rookie running back who has become a fan favorite in, 2 games.
Cam Scatterbo.
Yeah, and they have a nice defense. And Dable's fighting for his job, as is shown the GM. And I think Dable was so angry about losing as much about that's going to affect his record. And that's an all-time terrible loss, by the way, right?
Yes.
33, 32. They don't have a kicker. Their kicker is hurt, and they threw the rookie in who missed two extra points. One wide left by 6 inches, and one wide right by 6 inches. But it's a game of inches, as all these things are. So I don't know because I don't know where the Eagles are. Were they better last week? Yes, they were. But have they returned to the form of last year? No, they haven't. Is Barkley going to suddenly wake up? No, because the offensive line is either injured or not there, and I think the Eagles are still better than most, and I think they're better than the Giants. That's a tough game. What is it, 7.5?
7.5.
To me, that's a tough game because they're just going down the turnpike. I understand they're playing in a different environment, but they were able to beat the Eagles when the Giants were at home, and that was a huge win for the Giants and so, kind of a wake-up call, if you will, for the Eagles. What are they doing? What's happening? But the Giants are better than we thought, and I guess the Eagles, Super Bowl champions, are not as good as we thought, and that's where we are now as we go into Week 8.
Totally agree. Bills are another team coming off a bye. Playing the Panthers, you mentioned that that line shot up because of
Yes,
the redhead. Why am I? Oh,
Dalton.
Andy
Yeah,
Dalton,
Andy Dalton.
the other Ginger Jesus playing for the Panthers, and I think that's a lot of points for a guy who's been a starter, played well. I know he hasn't played in a while. Played a Bills team that, your son pointed out, Johnny, the first 4 games they played nobody, and then they played semi nobody and lost 2 games. They're 4-2. They were, in my opinion, like they looked like the most buttoned up team in the league after 4 games. 4-2, coming off a loss. They're in Carolina, taking on a kind of a feisty 4-3 Panther team, and that lines up 7.5. Your thoughts?
It was 4.5. I certainly liked them at 4.5, but I'm just not quite there at 7.5 because again, like the Eagles, the Bills who are automatically put at the top, right? If you talked at the beginning, it would be the Bills and the Eagles and maybe the Chiefs. And the Ravens if they were healthy, but they're not healthy, so I don't think they're going anywhere this year. But I think the Bills blow them out? I think the answer is yes, but we don't know who are the Bills right now. Who are they? And I was surprised 4.5 to 7.5. I thought it would go to 5.5. At that point, I wouldn't pick it because of the Joe Staszak rule. But I think 7.5 is pretty high, and that's a pass game for me. If I had to pick it at 7.5, I think I'd probably pick the Bills, but only on the theory that Andy Dalton, who once upon a time was really good, just hasn't played this year. Is he the next Joe Flacco now? Well, we're going to find out, but I certainly like the Bills to win the game.
And speaking of Joe Flacco, home against the Jets. Jets are still a mess. Only team hasn't won a game, I believe. Um,
Yes.
yeah, to me that's okay. It is what it is. I mean, I know I still picture Aaron Glenn after the Rams game when the Eagles ran it back. Right after that, they blocked a kick and ran it back, and there was 2 minutes left, and he was running down, doing a high step down the
Too
side.
early. Too
And then
early.
I know he was excited, but there was a lot of time left. Baker Mayfield drove him right down the field. Anyway, they lost that game, one of seven that they've lost, 0-7. Playing a Bengals team with a Joe Flacco who just, they gave him a playbook, probably bought him lunch and said, go play against the Steelers, and he beats them. And I heard them talk about him yesterday. My man, guy I used to work with, Cosell, Greg Cosell at NFL Film. Joe Flacco's from here, went to Delaware. His family is pretty well known. He's from South Jersey, and he said that when he does talk to Joe, and this is how I think most he keeps everything pretty simple. Like, all right, well, instead of, thinking about a playbook that's this thick and you got to learn it, if the safety's over here, all right, don't throw that way. Go throw over here. You know what I mean? If a cornerback
Yeah.
coming in here, all right, don't throw over his way. He kind of keeps it simple. And man, he lit it up the other day, and now he's playing the Jets team. And the Bengals, I know they're 3-4, and last year they struggled with Joe Burrow having an MVP like year because of their defense, but they're still hanging around. They can win some games, and they could maybe make some noise in the playoff hunt if they stay how they are.
Well, the Jets do have a pretty good defense. I mean, Denver was all out to beat them, which, Denver's last two
13-11,
games.
baby.
The Denver's last two games, they was all out to beat the Jets 13-11. And they performed a fourth quarter miracle after looking horrifically bad for three quarters, 33-32 against the Giants. So they went through New York teams that were viewed to be bad, but the reality is you don't want to play the Giants, but the Jets are horrible. And I think what's happened to Flacco at this team is he's throwing to like Hall of Fame wide receivers. I don't know if T. Higgins is a Hall of Famer, but he certainly would be a number
I
one.
mean, he's right under Chase. I mean, Chase is the guy, but Higgins
Right.
pretty good.
Right. So I didn't pick that game only because of the Jets defense. Aaron Glenn has not announced his quarterback. He knows who it is, but he doesn't want to announce it because he wants the Bengals have to get ready for two quarterbacks. I got to think it's going to be Tyrod Taylor. You heard what Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, said about his quarterback, his starting quarterback. He goes, well, it's very hard when your quarterback has that kind of rating and he really can't make those throws. And everybody immediately said, well, Aaron Glenn has to start Tyrod Taylor now, who's not bad. He's not
He's
bad,
not
Joe.
bad.
But he hasn't announced it. But I think you have to fall down if the owner essentially says my quarterback is terrible and you decide to start him again. This isn't a one or two or three game thing now. This is 0-7. So if I had to pick, I'd pick against the Jets, obviously, but I'll say it again. Their defense is pretty good. I always think your defense loses hard if your offense is horrific. And their offense is horrific. And Tyrod Taylor make a difference? I think he might be able to make a difference. But it's kind of a pass game for me because the Jets have to win at some point, don't they? Or are they going to be 0-17?
I don't think they'll be always. You almost have to try to do that, especially with some teams maybe tanking towards the end.
Well, everybody loves Aaron Glenn like the Giant fans love Campbell of Detroit when they played for the Jets or the Giants, respectively. Um, and he's saying all the right things, but I don't think he's going to get fired in 1 year. But I do think I have complete confidence in both of my quarterbacks, even the rookie quarterback, their third quarterback. I have complete confidence in them. Well, that's a problem when you're 0-7. That's all I can say.
That is a problem when you're 0-7. That's the thing you sent me with the little kid saying, I hate this team. That was hilarious. It's so sad, but it's like I hate
You
this.
feel bad, right? Right.
I'll still watch, like he'll still watch. But if I remember growing up, my teams were good back then. They didn't win championships a lot, but they were good. And to watch that as just, however, it might have been under 10 years old, I just felt bad for the kid. Saying I hate this team.
He looked like he was about 16, right?
Yeah, maybe he was. Maybe he was a little older, but it was just, he was honest. We like honesty.
Yes.
Um, Texans at hosting. Texas, I think, started 0-3, and then they won 3 games. Or no, they're actually only 2-4. They won 2 games, then they lost another. Didn't look good. CJ Stroud did not look good again last week, but the Niners seem. I mean, McCaffrey had a big game, and Mac Jones, when he plays, is doing well, and Brock Purdy, even when he plays, has been fine. All the guys they lost last year, they seem to be. I know they lost Fred Warner. People thought that they would tank. They won. They're 5-2, but a dog in Houston, 2.5 point dog on Sunday.
It's one of those weird Joe Staszak point spreads I don't quite understand, except the 49ers are, they're on the road. They're not playing at home. Do the Texans have that incredible defense we thought they had? Not really. Has CJ Stroud recovered after a great first year and a not very good second year?
No, and
No, he
CJ
hasn't.
Garner is nowhere to be found. They cut him, and he's still without a team.
Yeah. And the 49ers, they find a way. I mean, they lost Fred Warner and they stopped the run against Atlanta, which I'll complain about later. But they stopped the run on arguably the best running back, although maybe McCaffrey wanted to show who the best running back is because he had a heck of a game, over 200 yards from scrimmage. Um, so I would lean 49ers, but I don't want to pick that game because they strike me as being a different team on the road, as most teams are, than they are at home.
Packers, who are they have the best record in the league because of that tie.
All right.
So they only have one loss technically. They don't have the 5 wins yet, but um, I like the Steelers. Now, obviously, I guess I believe it's the first time Aaron Rodgers is playing his old team, and I'm not talking about the Jets. I mean, he's playing Green Bay.
Yep.
Downplayed it. I think things could have been better his final year, but other than that, I mean, they gave him like $600 million and made a career for him, and he did well. Won a Super Bowl playing at the Steelers. Um, you are a little up, but they can look really good, and they can look like what happened. But the Steelers are actually a dog in that game in Green Bay, and I've been saying since game one, I don't believe in Green Bay. I'm not all in on Green Bay. I think they're very young and they have a quarterback who looks really good sometimes and then can look like, oh, he did one of those Jordan Love things. So,
Right.
but they are a pretty good team, and but they are on the road and they are a favorite, 2.5 point favorite in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm picking the Packers because I just think forgetting the first week blowout where they were like the best team in football, but I think they've come back from that. But now I think they've gotten better lately. And I think I don't care what anyone says, everyone's saying, oh, he did so much for us. And, oh, I had 18 years there. Everyone's saying the right thing, but there's no way that the Packers don't want to beat him and beat him badly. And there's no way that he wants to just, it's just another game type thing. It's not another game, but I'm leaning Packers. I think the Steelers have overperformed. But I think Green Bay has a good combination of offense, defense, and I think they're going to score some points. And that's going to be when we do picks. That is one of my picks.
All right, I got to get through one game first because the biggest line of the week. It was the biggest line last week, and of course I bought it like a minnow, um, and got pummeled. But to Kansas City, I'm not sure if they're totally back, but they certainly, I guess the Raiders are one of those get well, or what do they call them, get right weeks, because they look pretty right, 31-0. Playing the Commanders without Jaden Daniels again. So Marcus Mariota is going to get the start in this one on the road. It's at Arrowhead. Commanders, they come back a little bit, but they haven't had their starting quarterback all year. And I thought they'd come back a little bit. They won 6 games last year in the final quarter. That's hard to do, like with those comebacks. And they put that season together. It was great. Made it to the NFC title game. 3-4, they're still hanging around. Chiefs are 4-3, and they're technically not even in a playoff spot yet, but they look pretty buttoned up. And I know a lot of people like to jump on it while they're still. And Mahomes has been great. He has. And they have their guys back. They have Rasheed Rice, and they have their speed. 11.5 point favorite though at home against the Commanders. 11.5 against a team that's kind of fighting for their playoff life. And it's still a decent team even without Jay and Daniels. Your thoughts?
On NFL Live yesterday, they said that Debo and McLaurin are actually practicing this week, so there's a chance they're going to play. Um,
Well, if they're
but I, you
practicing,
know,
that means they're probably healthy enough to practice.
I thought they were Super Bowl contenders before the year started, and I really haven't seen anything to show that they're Super Bowl contenders. And I don't know if the quarterback is going to be one of these always get hurt guys now, but I don't know. They announced definitely that he's not playing this week. I did not hear that.
I thought that they did, yes, but I
Yeah,
could be wrong.
well then they're in big trouble to me if he's
If
not
he
playing.
was playing, or even see if he was a question mark, that game would probably be off the board right now, like pending.
Good point.
So to make it 11 and a half, I certainly wouldn't be 11 and with Jaden Daniels. So I think he's out.
Well, Washington is better than the Raiders, that's for sure. I mean, the Raiders was like an unbelievable blowout. And to their credit, they got Rashee Rice right into it. I hate when these are touchdown passes, but they are. It was like I think it was their first drive where Mahomes just went like this and flipped it to him as he was running by. He flipped it
I like the
18
jet
inches.
sweep, but it counts as a touchdown pass because you throw
Exactly.
it.
But then he caught another one later. But you want to get these guys, especially if they've been out for 6 games for whatever reason, you want to get them right into the action, and they got him right into the action. But now their speed is intact. I thought the week before that they showed it with a healthy Worthy. He came back, and they looked lights out. And then with Worthy and Rice, they look lights out. And their defense has been playing better. Um, so do I think they can cover? I do. I wouldn't pick that game because it's just, as you said, too many points. But the Raiders game was a joke. I don't know that this game will be a joke, but without a quarterback, even if they get their receivers back, it could become a joke. That could be a blowout game, Joe. So I'm not touching it either way.
All right, my friend. Well, it's time. It's time for our picks. And I know there's a complaint filed with the league already. I mean, we've kind of dealt
Yeah,
with it. It
yeah, yeah. The
might
Joe
be an
Staszak
official
thing.
appeal, but we'll discuss. Would you like to go first, or would you like to me?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first.
All right.
I was 2-1. I like the Bears, like the Patriots, who are a team you don't want to play now. I don't care who you are. And I liked Atlanta to go on the road and beat the 49ers. And maybe that was my fault because the Falcons are much better at home than they are on the road. But it's late in the game. Falcons are down 3. Um, think it was first or second and goal from the 4, but it was from the 4. And if they score a touchdown, the game's over because they'll be up 10 and there's only a couple minutes left. If they kick a field goal, they're up 6, and Penix can go the length of the field maybe and win the game. None of that happened, of course. But here was the play, which you and Johnny knew about. I didn't know that rule where they give it to McCaffrey, first or second and goal from the 4. He busts up the middle, and you see touchdown, and he scores, and everyone says, okay. And, essentially the game is over. Then when they come back from commercial, they had the expert. I don't know who it was. It wasn't the regular guys who I would know their name.
Landino.
Was it Bandino?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just throwing out names.
Yeah, I don't think it was him either. It was some guy I never heard his name before, but former ref, everybody's got one now. But they showed where a big lineman on the Chiefs at the 3-yard line grabbed McCaffrey either by his ankles or by his calves and literally dragged him across the goal line. Now you can do all the tush push and pushing from behind. All of that is legal now, but it's a penalty if you drag him in, and it's a 10-yard penalty. So now after the fact, I call up Joe Staszak, the appellate judge, and I say, Joe, at least give me a push. I mean, come on, they drag the guy in. If they call the penalty, they kick a field goal, and we have a chance to win. I have a chance to be 3-0. And for the ninth year in a row, rejected anything I said. But but I went 2-1. I'm pretty happy with that. Again, that's the latest on the Falcons, and Penix isn't 100% sure to play, so I'm skipping them this week. But if they're at home, they're much better than when they're on the road. But this week I'm going. I think you like this pick. I'm taking the Bears plus 6.5 at the Ravens. It's not clear that Lamar is going to play, but either way, their defense is terrible. Now, if Lamar plays and he's Lamar, then it's going to be hard for the Bears to beat them. But if Lamar does not play, I think they have a chance to win the game. I'm surprised at 6.5. Now the Ravens are at home, so maybe you'll tell me that's why. But I'm going Bears plus 6.5. I like the Bucks at New Orleans. I know New Orleans is better at home also, but I think the Bucks are going to find a way. Now Evans is out. I don't know if he's going to have his receivers, but this is again in Baker we trust. But you might tell me in Baker we trust to win by 2 points. But the Bucks are minus 4.5. It's not the Joe Staszak 5.5, but the Bucks are minus 4.5. I'll take them at New Orleans. And finally, in the Packers Steelers, I know what it is. It's always a tough game, and Aaron Rodgers against his 18-year team. But I'm going to take the Packers minus 2.5 because I think they're just a better team. They were off the charts number one after the first week, right?
Good,
Since
yeah.
then, they've been good. Don't get me wrong, but they had a little bit of a slump, and now they've come back and they're good. As you say, Love can do Love things at quarterback, and that's always a worry. But I think he wants to show something as well. Although he spoke very kindly of Aaron Rodgers, how he helped him a lot, how he learned. I don't remember that being the
I don't
truth,
remember that being the case.
but Love said all the right things. I'll put it that way, and the coach said all the right things, and Aaron Rodgers said all the right things, but I think when push comes to shove, everybody really wants to win this game. So I'll take Bears, Bucks, Packers. And how about you?
Last week 2-1, same as you. I struggled with the Raiders, only 30 offensive plays. You're not going to score a lot of points. I had the Eagles. Eagles did cover that game. Uh,
Carolina.
I had Carolina, thank you, and they covered the game, and so I was 2-1. This week I'm going to go against. I like home dogs, and I do think the Packers are a better team. I just think that um, with Aaron Rodgers against his old team, I don't necessarily believe in revenge games. You 5 minutes in, you get knocked in the mouth, and it's back to football. But I think they win that game or or lose close, and they can still win because they're getting 2.5 points. So I'm going with the Steelers at home, and it's a nationally televised game. I'm going with the Panthers again because of I mean that 3 point shot up a lot because of um, Dalton, what's his name? Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton.
Yeah, like that's a lot of points for a guy who's been an NFL starter and been good. And I've seen him come in after not playing the season last year, and he just came in, filled in nicely, and he's a pro. He knows what he's doing. And I'm not sure about the Bills either. I'm kind of waiting to see. I know it's the Panthers, and historically, or at least last few years, they've been like, but they've been okay this year with Bryce Young. He's not in. The Bills have struggled since their first four wins. They're coming off a bye, though, so we shall see. And I like the Texans, who I do not think are a good team, and I try to not bet. I think when you bet, it's one of my rules. You bet bad teams, bad things are likely going to happen. So, but I'm going to take them anyway because I think that line's screwy, like you mentioned. Like that's like, why are they giving points to the 49ers who seem to find ways to win? And they're 3-1 on the road this year. CJ Stroud has lost his way since his rookie year. That line just is screwy to me. So I'm going to take the Texans here. So I got the Texans minus 2.5 over the Niners, Panthers plus 7.5 over the Bills, and I like the Steelers plus the points over Aaron Rodgers, or sorry, with Aaron Rodgers over his former team, the Packers. Now, before we get into any hoops that started this week, well, we will get into hoops because we're talking about betting right now, and some stuff came down yesterday, and I think this might eventually be one of the biggest sports stories like we've ever heard, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow. And I think there are a lot of NBA players out there that are really probably walking around tight right now because Chauncey Bill, a sitting head coach, and I'm thinking he's going to be a Hall of Famer. If he's not already, I don't
He is
know.
a Hall of
He
Famer.
is a Hall of Famer. Won a championship with Detroit. Great player. Great player. Not a flashy, not a Magic Johnson, but just a great overall player. Coaching the Blazers. Terry Rozier and one other guy from I can't remember his name. Damon, is it? Couple
Damon
guys
Jones.
got
Damon
arrested
Jones.
in an
Yeah.
investigation.
Damon Jones. Yeah.
Damon Jones, thank you. That's been going on a couple years. For not only there's two things here, and the mafia is involved too. That's always a good thing when when the mob gets indicted with you. But there's two things. There's betting against games like FanDuel and one with the prop bets, which is to me, and I'll ask you this question in a second, is easy to do, stupid but easy. These guys, I think they mentioned Chauncey had gotten paid over $100 million in his career, or maybe the other guy who got suspended for the whole year, or lifetime. One of those guys, maybe. it was Rozier. I can't remember, but they make a lot of money. But they do like to bet. Of all the teams and people I've been around, the basketball guys like to bet, and they always have. And it used to be illegal with your town, your neighborhood bookie or whatever. Now it became legal. And then there's these side poker games or whatever with devices that can like see through
Incredible.
cards.
Yeah.
What? It sounds like a complicated, really complicated, intricate system that the mob's been involved with these poker games and getting these players involved? I mean, okay, first question is, did you ever think this thing was going to kind of come down like this when gambling became legalized a few years ago?
I think it's happened more times than we'll know because the reason to me, anyway, that these guys got caught is that I think specifically on the game with Rozier, he was going to come out after he played 10 minutes or something. And people bet like six figures on the over or under to the point where the bookies, I'm sorry, the legitimate gambling enterprises uh, stopped taking bets on it. The problem is, and if you're Chauncey Billups, if he was involved in that, I know he was involved in the poker games and apparently took a lot of money from him. So he knew because now it's like, hey, you big poker player, you like to play poker, come play with a Hall of Fame basketball player. Apparently that's how they drew them in. And Chauncey Billups got some money. I don't know if he's involved in the gambling like Rozier is, but how hard would it ever be? I can tell you, man, when I was in college, um, if you said to me, you're favored by 20, just win by, less than 20. I'm not saying I would have ever taken money, nor was I ever in a position to or not to, but I would be like, what's the big deal? We
And a
win by
lot of these
15
aren't even
instead of
on the
20.
team, they're on the individual. Like,
Well, and that's the problem. See, to me, a guy like a Terry Rozier, excellent player, by the way, as we know. I'm surprised that he, seemed very bright guy to me, but and he needs more money. But the problem is they get caught because someone bet like 100,000 on an over/under for points or whatever the numbers are. The numbers were crazy. So you don't have to be a genius to figure out something's up. But if they would just do it in dribs and drabs, and that's what I think might be happening, 1,000 here, 1,500 there, nobody's going to bat an eye. But because you got greedy, that's why you got caught. And I'm not even saying, look, it's sad that he did it. And I assume he's going to get, I think it was Silver. I remember Stern years ago with how, if you remember, even Goodell, how anti-gambling they were. That was the end
wouldn't
of the
even
world.
talk about it, even though it fueled the NFL.
And so now what you have is it's totally gone the other way. I mean, totally gone the other way. And now everybody and their mother's doing a commercial. Hey, go gamble. You can bet all the time. This is the best
So
place to
annoying.
bet.
So
And
annoying.
you're sitting there going, isn't there one person who's going to come out and say, yeah, I really don't want to do gambling commercials? Years ago, when this all first started, there was a guy at WFAN I saw at the Meadowlands every year at the Hambletonian, which is the Kentucky Derby. And one year he came up to me because I was doing, I was doing some work at FAN. I was getting some morning shows, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I can get you, this is just at the beginning of sports gambling. He goes, I can get you on a radio program picking games. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to pick games per se. I don't want to encourage that gambling. We pick three, but really it's more for enjoyment purposes than anything else. But at the time, I remember thinking, man, I don't want to do that. But I think they're getting so much money. You see the whole, I forget her name. She's on 11 o'clock on Sunday. She does Thursday night football. She does it with,
There was what's her name, the blonde girl. Well, they're all
yeah, I
blonde.
can't remember her name, but I saw her doing gambling commercials now. And you're sitting there going, isn't there anyone who sees the danger here? And I think Silver came out with some kind of statement that, oh, the gambling entities have to be more careful. No, no, no. You got to be
You
more
got
careful.
to be more. They're doing
And
their
I'm not
job.
sure how you stop I twisted my ankle after 10 minutes. I'm out of my ankle hurts. And I scored 6 points when the over under was 13 or whatever
Right.
the numbers was something like that. That's even better than controlling a score because if you're the man and you want to control the score and you want to win by 15 instead of 20, you're going to miss a layup or a short jumper. But if it's just a straight over under on how many points you're scoring, oh my ankle. Oh, I got nine. I think it was nine, and the over under was 13 or something. And he mysteriously came out of the game. This is back in March of 23, by the way. So we're 2.5 years behind. I'll say it forever. First of all, it's not good. I don't know how many new Gamblers Anonymous. I'd love to see those numbers. How many new Gamblers Anonymous people have there been in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years? I remember how vicious against it David Stern was. But then eventually, even when he was still a commissioner, they started it, I think, and he said, well, this is, like the way it goes or whatever. Goodell has been around for all of this, and he was vehemently against it. And now happy days are here again. Just give us the money. And I'm no expert on bookies or anything, but my friends who know this stuff say, well, if you play FanDuel or DraftKings or any of those, you're getting killed now because they have to pay so much to the state that the odds you and I are getting if we're betting are terrible compared to what we would have gotten. The whole
They're
minus
thin margins now. Yeah.
exactly. So, I'm not shocked that all this is happening. I would guess it's been happening a lot. I'll say it forever. If you're smart enough and not greedy enough, you can do it, and you can still do it. There's
You
nothing
still
going to
do
be
it.
here.
I'll bet guys did it last night.
It could be, but what I'll say is this now. Anytime a guy comes out of a game with an injury, they're going to have some kind of independent doctor analyzing
Right?
analyzing the injury because how will you know? Because no matter what they do now, there's still going to be a loophole. And that's the loophole right there on individual. You told me, high lows on points or rebounds or assists or whatever. As I've said for many years, people would bet cockroach races if there was a way you could bet on a cockroach
It
race.
goes back to the Roman chariots. I heard
No, 100% right. So I don't know how this is going to get fixed, but I'll say the reason these guys got caught is because some guys got incredibly greedy. Why these guys would be involved after all the money they've made is beyond me, except what do we always say about the rich people? How much money do you need? And the answer isn't a dollar sign. The answer is more.
right.
Just
Like
give me
Wall Street. How
more.
many how many yachts can you water ski behind, Gordon? How many?
Yeah.
You know what
And
I
I'm not
mean?
sure if these guys are going to get suspended for life. Is this 1919? You could argue this is worse than a couple of the guys who allegedly threw the World Series, including Joe
I
Jackson.
would think they would have like what are you going to suspend him for 30 games and let him like isn't that like the death besides murdering someone?
If it was baseball in the old days, they would have got suspended for life. Didn't the NBA already suspend somebody for life or
That's
no?
a good question. I got to be honest because I'm with my girl because I have the sciatica. She's stretching me yesterday. Knows nothing about sports, but I was telling her the situation. She asked me a good question. Why did the guy last year get suspended for life and these guys got arrested? Like I didn't
I
have an
think
answer.
the answer was he's a nobody.
Is that really the answer?
I can't tell you his name, but he's a
I
nobody.
remember it was a nobody because I can't remember him either.
Chauncey Billups isn't a nobody, and Terry Rozier isn't a nobody. But you got to be talking years, I think, if not forever. I mean, Rozier's pretty old. Billups is a retired. He's the coach of Portland. Hard to believe his career isn't over. They're going to bring him back.
No, you could never like
That's the
how
message.
can you? Like how can you? Like
This is the message, Joe.
this is the message you got to send
I mean,
if they're serious about it.
I don't remember, but I certainly read about in the 60s, Paul Hornung, superstar Hall of Famer of the Green Bay Packers. He was part of the power sweep with Taylor. It was Taylor and Hornung. And Alex Karras, who's better known for punching out the horse in Blazing Saddles, but both Hall of Famers, they got suspended for a year for gambling, like in 1963 or something. So again, this is as old as can be. It's kind of making Pete Rose looking a little better for the Hall of Fame
A
now
little
because
bit, right?
that's just my own pet peeve, which you know all about.
Of
But
course.
this is now on Silver, who got so credited during COVID with the bubble and what a great job he's done and blah blah blah. But I'll say it again: this hole is open no matter what you do. But I will say, I think every guy who comes out with an injury during a game is going to be either have to see an independent doctor or there's going to be an immediately investigation as to him. Was anything suspicious? Let's
Certainly
look.
be under an
Let's
umbrella of suspicion. Yes, if
Right.
it's
Let's look at the gambling thing, and I'll say it forever. If you do it easier, 1,000, 1,500. It may never be found out if you do it that way, if you're really smart. Now, it's the slow way to make money when you know you could bet 25,000 to make 25,000. But if that happens, they'll have a set now. If it's over like a $5,000, whatever that set is, we may not know. But if it's over 5,000, we're investigating on a rebound
Sure.
point or assist. So this is only the beginning.
I think
Uh,
so.
but you can't be surprised with that loophole. Oh, my ankle! I just twisted my ankle. You
Not
can't be surprised, and this will still go on. And I think the only thing the NBA could do is investigate every guy who comes out of a game, or at least test him. Have an independent doctor there, like they do with the concussion protocol. That's not for gambling. That's for the protection of the player.
sure.
But who knows what's going on? I said forever, if a player wanted to really get a bet in, not to bet too much and just call up one of his friends and say, throw 1,000 on us to win today.
The
You're not gonna find
problem,
that
the
out.
problem I could see for that is this. One, they make so much money that those little bits don't mean much to them, so they would have to be something commensurate with what they're used to. The other thing is, and I heard um, Mike Greenwood say when he did an event, he was it the journalist 15 years ago. I can't remember the guy's name. What happens is you're betting and you're doing it legally, but all of a sudden you get in a little bit of debt with a guy. Again, this was before the enterprises. So you get into debt with a guy, and then it gets higher and higher because a lot of people aren't good at it, and that's why there's gambling anonymous, and that's why people get in trouble. And then he's like, "Oh, I gotta trim this down a little bit. How can I get trim this down fast? Some of this debt." And that's when you have control over it, that you can do that, and there'd be big chunks of money coming down, and then word gets out. Next thing you know, you got the mafia involved.
Well, you also have the involvement of the mob, and that's a problem because you're going to be put into a position, you better do this or I know where you live type thing. You
Of
see that
course it
on TV.
is.
You see that on TV all the time, and it's not around today like it was in the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s into the 70s. But it's still around. And this is going to be the example. I don't know exactly what happened, except the mob guys were involved in the poker games. And supposedly there's been an unnamed guy. I don't know if he's a defendant or not, but he was threatened by the mob. You better do this or else. And once you're there, you ain't getting out of
What are
that.
you going to do? They'll find you.
Exactly.
They don't mess around. I just watched American Mob, Philly versus the Philadelphia or the Mob or something, and they showed how it cleaned up the streets with Skinny Joey and all that stuff. They don't mess around.
Correct.
You want to testify? Okay, you're not going to be around for long, or at least the threat of that. But
Exactly.
anyway, it's unbelievable, and we'll continue to talk about the story as more comes out on Kallas Remarks. The NBA did start the other night. On Wednesday night. I'll talk about the Sixers real quick because everyone's like all jumping on. I need I need to see a lot more before I jump in. But Edgecombe, the new rookie, they drafted 34 points while Joel Embiid had four. Like and they beat the Celtics in Boston. Like what?
And Maxey had 40. I love
Man, I
Maxey.
know they're two young guns, and if Embiid can play like more than 30 or 40 games, I don't know. They keep drawing me back in. They keep drawing me back.
Hey, hey, have you heard this year yet? Trust the process.
First time.
I give the Thunder credit, defending champions. Everybody's looking to play the champions, and they're going to get everyone's best effort and blah, blah, blah. And they won their first two games by double overtime. In double overtime. I don't know if that's ever happened. But KD fouled out late in that game and they beat the Rockets in double overtime, 125, 124. SGA had 35 points. Yesterday he had, what did he have? Did he have he had 55 career high SGA in a double overtime win yesterday. So give them credit. They're off to a good start. Golden State beat the Lakers without LeBron by 10. And then I thought this happens at the beginning of the year. So then they played the Nuggets last night and they beat the Nuggets. But I think that way it was a very close game, another overtime game. But I think it's an advantage to have played one game when you go to play a team like that, a really good team like Denver. And I have to give it to Jokic First game, triple double. This guy, I think he's moved into one of the 10 best players of all time. He's done it year after year. He's won MVPs. He won the championship. Meanwhile, he goes 21, 13 rebounds, 10 assists. And Aaron Gordon, I give them credit because they look for Aaron Gordon because he was so hot. And when he gets hot, he was 7 for 7 from three in the first half. He finished with 50. Aaron Gordon. But nonetheless, in overtime, Curry, 42 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. They won by 6. They beat Denver in overtime. So I think Golden State had a little advantage by having already played a game. And the Lakers without LeBron, well, Doncic got 43, but it's the Lakers without LeBron.
Mhm.
So I think it's an advantage. And I think, I'm not saying it cost Denver the win, but I think it's better to have a game under your belt when you're going to play a team like Denver or a team like the Warriors, frankly.
Agreed. And don't be surprised if you hear whispers of LeBron's name in this whole, not saying he was caught in it or did anything wrong, but I have heard LeBron rumors that he mentioned a few things that he wasn't playing in a game or two coming up. And this was
Boy,
years in
I hope
pitching.
not, but that would be unbelievable
And
because
that
then
would be,
LeBron's not a somebody, he's an everybody.
he's the everybody. So, hey, we shall see. Great stuff, my man, as usual. You can check out Steve's stuff on his daily Facebook.
Just let me mention briefly on the World Series if I
Oh,
could.
that's right. I'm sorry. We
Well,
forgot
that's
about
okay.
the.
No, I think it's baseball's fault. Johnny Callis with us the other day said, "How could they not? Why would they play Game 7 of a series to get into the World Series against two NFL
No
games
other NFL
when
game.
they knew the World Series was starting on Friday? They should have just changed it to Tuesday, where they would have run the world for one day."
One day.
But now they're starting, and our guy Blake Snell, who hasn't pitched, I don't know if this sometimes this affects people. They come in, they overthrow. Um, I don't know how long it's been, but it's been over a week, I think, since
It
he's been.
has been. That's what I
And
mean.
he's 3-0 with a 0.86 ERA. He's the Blake Snell of I've won two Cy Youngs, I think. He's the Blake Snell. And I don't know how Toronto's gonna, I
I
did
like
it.
the Blue Jay. I'm going to say it. I like the Blue Jays to win.
Well, good for you because you're the long shot guy and only because I grudgingly picked the Dodgers before the series, before the season started, before the playoffs, and now before the World Series. You look at their lineup, they have an incredibly tough lineup, but you look at their starting pitchers, gave up 2 runs in 4 games. I mean, that's hard to beat. And their
Unbelievable.
bullpen is pitching better. Their weakness is their bullpen, but if their
Mhm.
bullpen pitches well, I don't know how Toronto's going to win. I picked the Dodgers in 5. I don't like to pick games, but I picked the Dodgers all year. I hate the Dodgers, but I thought they were going to run away with it. The fact that they didn't have best record was a red flag, but I picked them anyway because at the end they were getting good. They were looking like the Dodgers. It was clear now they moved Ohtani up so he can pitch 5 or 6 innings. I thought they might use him in relief because he hasn't pitched more than 6 innings all year,
Mhm.
but he pitched six, the game to be remembered forever. 6 shutout innings, 2 hits, 3 home runs. And a friend of mine called me up and said uh, uh, I think again, another ESPN guy, don't know who it was, but some expert said, "Oh yes, Ohtani hit 3 home runs and he pitched a shutout." Well, if you pitch 6 innings and it's a 9 inning game, Joe, you haven't pitched a shutout. You shut out a team for 6 innings, which again is incredible.
Quality
But
start,
when
man.
people, I think it was Johnny. Johnny told us about the guy who used to be on Dan Patrick, who came up and said, "Well, Rick Wives, yeah, it was the regular season, but Rick Wives pitched a no hitter and hit 2 home runs.
Yeah.
Well, Bob Gibson pitched an incredible game in the playoffs and hit a home run." And I always go back to Babe Ruth, of course. Ruth never really pitched and hit home runs. He did a few. I think the last year he was 13-7, which is not even a really good Babe Ruth year, but he hit like 27 or 29 home runs to set the all-time record. I'd like to see Ohtani do it in the World Series because you know what I feel about World Series home runs versus postseason home runs. And I might do that list for next week, but let's see him do it in the World Series. Don't forget, I'm 95% sure Babe Ruth is the only guy. I know Babe Ruth hit 3 home runs twice, once in different World Series, but twice. I don't think anybody else has done that in the World Series game. And I'll say that's a step above doing it in the game to get to the World Series. Because when Ruth and them played, you didn't have playoffs like that. You couldn't play 22 games in the playoffs.
Hmm.
Boy, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, Yogi Berra. It's usually Yankees because they were in so many. But what if they could have played 22 games in one series? I don't know what the numbers would have been, except they would have been high.
Lots higher. Good stuff, bro. So we'll see. We'll see. Starts tonight. It's been a while, so we'll have to get back into baseball mode. But good stuff. You can follow Steve stuff on his Facebook forum page, Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas. Also, you can follow this podcast on YouTube or on the audio outlets. Me on Twitter at Joe Staszak 975 or on Instagram at Joe Staszak 4799. Great stuff, my friend. And we will catch you on Tuesday, as we always do during the football season, to recap week 8 of the NFL. And we'll touch on the World Series and see what else happens with this gambling debacle in the NBA. Good stuff, my friend. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you.
Always a pleasure, Joe.
Appreciate it, folks, for watching, and we'll catch you in a few days. Have a good one.